This is part 2 of my conversation regarding my decision to use the new Rotofella Explore binding for my off-trail cross-country skiing instead of sticking with the NNNBC and 3-pin soft leather systems I've skied for many years. First, let's talk about 3-pins, soft leathers, cables, and plastic boots. It is a great system and has stood the test of time. Last year I had the option of skiing my tried and true set of S-bound 98s with 3 pins and leathers, or to ski the same ski with the new Explore system. But by midwinter, it was clear to me that I preferred to ski the Explore setup. I put together several videos last year where I tried to describe how the two systems compared. Here are a few excerpts. So I'm at an interesting crossroads right now, trying to determine whether or not these new alpha-free boots with the Explorer binding is an adequate replacement for my 75mm leather boots and a Voile binding. And my initial impressions after 4 or 5 skis are, yes, I think they are. The feel with these new boots and the bindings are very similar to 75mm. The boots offer a little bit better control than my Greenlands. You know, I really have to applaud Rotofella and Alpina and Alpha for stepping forward to try and improve this whole category of backcountry skiing with lightweight gear. This cross-country downhill, as a lot of people like to describe it. And I know that means a whole realm and range of skiing and conditions, everything from 75mm leathers to NNNBC to all the way up to plastic boots and everything in between. And a lot of people are wondering, well, how does this fit into all that? You know, is it going to replace any of those systems? No, I don't think it's going to replace any of those systems. You know, if you're really competent in skiing the system that you have, maybe there's not a whole lot of reason to jump ship at this point. But you know, if you just happen to be in the market for a new set of skis and your boots are worn out, you want some new boots, or maybe you just want a boot that has a little more support, you want to up your game from what you're currently skiing, I think this is really a good option. These new Alpha boots are really out of the box from anything that I've skied in the past. And I think they kind of bridge that gap between the stiff leather boots and maybe the softer plastic boots, the lower plastic boots in particular. And I think for some really good skiers, they might even do the same job that a Scarpa T4 would do, especially if you ski a low-cut plastic boot without a cable or a hard wire. Will this replace the 75mm? Oh, absolutely not. There's just too many people that love that system. Too many people ski it really well, and there's something to be said for nostalgia. So what about cables? Obviously, there is no Explorer cable option. You know, if you're a die-hard cable fan, the Explorer system is going to feel very different from what you're used to skiing. Here is an excerpt from one of my many past videos discussing cables and hard wires. When you choose a leather boot for a 3-pin binding and your focus is more on the downhill end of things as opposed to just cruising in the flats, people oftentimes pick a binding that has either a hard wire or a cable attachment. Now, first of all, if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know I'm not a big fan of cable bindings on leather boots. I think a leather boot just by itself, as long as it's sturdy enough and the skis are capable and the snow conditions are good, are more than adequate for doing the turns that you need to do in the backcountry. But when conditions get a little tougher, or maybe the boot doesn't have the support that you need, then people often resort to putting a spring cable on or buying a binding that has a hard wire. And that really does give you more control, but the hassle of taking them on and putting them off is more than I can stand most of the time. Each of those systems have their benefits and their weaknesses. I guess if I had to pick a 3-pin binding with either the cable or a hard wire, I'd probably go with a hard wire. Even though you have a weight penalty, I think it just feels better. It feels more natural to me. And the way I ski is I like to have my boot a little bit loose. I like it to be a little bit more natural, almost as if you're not using a hard wire or spring. So the choice was easy for me. I won't miss the lack of a cable option. The last hurdle is the lack of a plastic boot option for the Explorer binding. It is probably the one reason why you should probably stick with a 3-pin. I've skied Volley 3 pins with both the Scarpa T4 and the Scarpa T2. It's a powerful combination that probably can't be obtained with the Explorer binding system unless someone produces a similar boot in the future. I have a downhill setup with switchback bindings for plastic boot terrain, and that is what I choose to ski when I'm with the AT crowd, so there was really no reason for me to keep a set of skis with a 3-pin binding. So what about NNNBC? That was the easier decision for me. In recent years, my NNNBC setups have mainly been used for off-trail kick and glide tours, and I prefer the NNNBC over 3-pin and soft leathers in that mode. The Explorer binding is great for kick and glide, weighs less than NNNBC, and has the option for a hard flexor and a flat plate. Another benefit is that the Explorer binding eliminates the dreaded NNN boot sole snow packing that must be cleared out before you can lock the boot into the binding. There's been lots of debate on the forums regarding toe connection and the leverage differences between the 3 different binding choices. There are some differences, of course, but from my perspective, it's more about the boot than how the toe is connected to the ski. Given a similar boot, they all offer good downhill control. Each system feels a bit different, and it requires some adjustment to your technique, but I really think it's still more about the boot than how the toe is connected to the ski. Everyone has their own preferences. So let's talk about boots. So far, I've had the opportunity to ski 3 Explorer boots, the Alpha Free, the Alpha Vista, and the Alpina Alaska XP. These 3 boots are very different, but they have one thing in common: improved skiing characteristics over the boots I've owned in the past. On one end of the spectrum, the Alaska offers great kick and glide performance and adequate stability and control. On the other end of the spectrum, the Alpha Free has amazing downhill control, but it's a bit stiff to be used strictly for kick and glide tours. And I'm still testing the Alpha Vista, but so far I think it's going to fit right in the middle between those 2 boots. I guess the bottom line is that the Explorer binding and the new boots will work well for the type of off-trail cross-country skiing and terrain that I enjoy the most. Having all of my cross-country skis mounted with the same binding allows me the opportunity to mix and match the boot, the flexor, and the skis in my quiver for a whole range of tours and conditions. The big downside, of course, is cost. The retail cost of the Alpha Vista and the Explorer binding is approaching $700 US. The Alpha Guard, which is basically the same boot, and a NNNBC binding is around $560 US, and that's a pretty big premium. I hope over time the cost will come down, but for now it is what it is. The other wild card is durability. I only have 1 season on the new system, and I have not had any issues at all. The durability verdict is still out, and I'll be sure to document any problems that might pop up. Of course, this is just one man's opinion after 1 season of testing. It's not real science or hard facts, but I know what I like, and I'm happy with my decision. I hope you found this video useful, and if so, be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and if you see me on the trail, be sure to say hi.